Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to part 2 of our look at the all-time great Team Canada hockey players. In our last video, we had to count on the top 10 forwards in Team Canada history, and now we move to the blue line, the defensemen. The criteria is same, based on the impact they had on the international scale, as well as success. Personal accolades are also part of context, overall performance, big moments. But being that these are defensemen, their scoring stats won't be a heavy factor, but will be in the context of some selections. Now, some of you will agree, some of you will disagree. Feel free to share your own top 10 in the comments below. Without further ado, here are the top 10 Team Canada defensemen. At number 10, Larry Murphy. Through his 21-year career, Hall of Fame defenseman Larry Murphy has been often overshadowed by many of his peers of the era, and it's, well, sometimes easy to see why. I'm not saying Larry wasn't great. He was, however, a tremendous playmaker, could steer a power play, make great setups and passes, and while not a heavy hitter, he could break up offensive onslaughts from the opposition. He was overlooked, actually, for the 1984 Canada Cup, but got his chance to play for Team Canada at the 1985 World Championships, whom many feel this is actually one of the best all-around Canadian rosters in competition's history, and had they won a gold medal, might even be one of the all-time greatest. It featured two of Larry's future teammates, Mario Lemieux and Steve Yzerman, as well as his teammate at the time in Washington, for the defenseman Scott Stevens. Murphy was, again, superb, with 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points in 8 games. But what made this tournament stand out was the fact that Canada defeated the Soviets 3-1, their first win over the powerhouse squad since rejoining the tournament in 1977. And before that, the last time they beat them was 1961! It was a huge moment for Team Canada, and Murphy was a significant part of it and played very well in that game. However, after a tough loss to the Czechs, Murphy and his team would have to settle for a silver medal. Still, that was Canada's best finish since returning to the tournament. Murphy played in the Worlds again 2 years later in 1987, after having his best NHL season at that point. He joined the team in the final 6 games of the tournament, but the team failed heavily in the playoff round, but he still played very well with 3 assists in 6 games. Canada would have to settle for a 4th place finish. But then Larry Boy would get his biggest chance yet. He was selected to play in the historic 1987 Canada Cup. Murphy would call this tournament some of the best hockey he played in his career, and it's hard-pressed to make that argument. He played well in the opening tie against the Czechs and made some key plays to win over the Finns, including a major assist on a big Kevin Dineen goal, Dineen who was named player of the game, and he was even better in the tight 3-2 win over the United States. He was a force against Sweden and was working his tail off in a 3-3 tie with the Soviets. He kept getting better every game, it seemed, and that was evident even more in the semifinal win against the Czechs, assisting on a Dale Hawerchuk goal in a 5-3 win. But he was also key in Canada maintaining control of the game. But Larry Murphy saved his best for last. It was the historic finals over the Soviets, as he was just hustling out there. But with Canada down 4-3 and time winding down, he and Mark Messier set up Gurlen Anderson for the tying goal to make it 4-4, but Canada would lose in overtime 6-5. Game 2, Murphy was trying everything in his power for Canada not to be swept and forced the deciding Game 3. But he made the biggest play of the tournament at that point to help win the game. In a thrilling double overtime, Game 2, Murphy launched the puck from the point on the Soviet net, where Gretzky tapped at it, missed, but then slid it to Lemieux and scored! Murphy got the secondary key assist on that historic winner to send it to Game 3. Speaking of Game 3 in Hamilton, Murphy was brilliant. With Canada trailing 3-0, he steered the power play that allowed he and Michel Goulet to set up a Rick Tocchet goal to get Canada into the game at last. Then trailing 4-2, Mario and Wayne set up a Larry Boy for a power play goal to close the gap to a goal. At the game tied 4-4 late in the second, Larry received the puck from Brian Propp and set up Dale Hawerchuk for a goal. Larry had 1 goal, 2 assists for 3 points on the night, but his biggest contribution came on what is known as the goal, 1987 version. Murphy was on the ice while Dale, Wayne, and Mario, well, you know the story. Dale wins the faceoff, Mario takes it, Wayne takes it, switching up, Mario going in on goal, but yet so is a wide-open Larry Murphy. Larry is playing decoy to draw attention of both the goalie and defenders. But his play does not get enough recognition. It allowed Mario to score. 6-5 Canada, they win the Canada Cup. Murphy played the game of his career, garnering his first major sports championship. To top it off was the leader on the team with an amazing +8. Now, Dale Hawerchuk, and deservedly so, I will say, was named player of the game in that Game 3, but you could have easily given it to Larry Murphy. And we'll talk about another peer of his later on that overshadowed him, and again, it was hard for him to overcome throughout his career, but his recognition, I feel, is a lot more present since he's retired. He declined to play in the 1989 and 1990 World Championships, but after winning his first Stanley Cup as a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1991, he was selected to play in that year's Canada Cup. While his impact wasn't as presentful as it was in 1987, Murph made some key plays throughout the tournament that shifted momentum in Canada's favor as he walked away with his second Canada Cup as they swept the Americans 2-0 in the finals. Murphy didn't see much international competition after this, however. The Pens were always a prominent playoff team, and sadly in 1996, after being shipped to Toronto, he was being the scapegoat for that mediocre Leafs club and wasn't even thought of for the 1996 World Cup of Hockey roster. But after a resurgence with the Red Wings and winning another Stanley Cup, he actually was apparently thought of by management for the 1998 Olympic team, but passed up due to it being very veteran-heavy as it is. After the Wings suffered a second-round exit in 2000, there were still a few games left in the 2000 World Championships, and 39-year-old Murphy was called to bring more depth to the club in hopes to win a gold medal. He played well in the win over Switzerland in the quarterfinals, but the team fell apart and finished fourth. This was his last taste of international hockey. But be that as it may, despite not getting the spotlight like others at the time, Murphy was an asset whenever he played for his country and delivered in aces, especially in both 1985 and 87, where his recognition he should finally be getting. At number 9, Jay Bouwmeester. Despite often being criticized about his lack of physicality, he could change momentum on a dime in terms of breaking up rushes and starting them. He was a tremendous passer and play starter through a pro career that lasted 17 seasons, possessing tremendous skating abilities. He was a traditional defender that could give his team an edge for Canada. He was always called upon to make a difference. He made an immediate impact after his rookie season at the 2003 World Championships in Finland. And when encountering veterans such as Mats Sundin or Ziggy Palffy, he was ready for whatever came his way, and whoever for that matter. Offensively, he did very well in this tournament with 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points in 9 games. He was so good, he was named to the tournament All-Star team and named Best Defenseman, en route to helping Canada win their first gold since 1997. He was again back the very next year in 2004 in the Czech Republic, and J-Bo was again excellent, always shifting momentum at the right moment. He was a +5, tied for team best, and hey, got himself another gold medal. A few months later, he was selected to represent Canada at the 2004 World Cup of Hockey. He played 4 out of the 6 games and did play well, though he was overshadowed by other defensemen on the team, but still made the most of his ice time and walked away with his 3rd international title. He had his biggest chance, however, in 2006 when he was selected to play for Team Canada at the Olympics. Sadly, however, these Olympic Games were a disaster for Canada, but on a bright note for J-Bo, he was arguably the team's best defenseman in this tournament, even leading the entire team with a +4 despite the 7th place finish. He returned to the Worlds in 2008, but Canada would have to settle for a silver, and despite playing good in several games, he wouldn't make much of a dent in the gold medal game loss. In 2010, it seemed he may be a shoo-in to make the Team Canada team for the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, but he was in the midst of some of his most meh years of his pro career. He didn't have a strong camp, and he was put on the reserve list in case of an injury that needed to be called up, and alas, he never was. In 2012, he returned to the Worlds, and it looked like he was back to his old self. He was tremendous in this tournament with great outings against Slovakia, the US, and Kazakhstan. But they were stunned by the Slovaks in the playoff round and finished 5th in the tournament. And he played very well, however, he had 2 assists and was a +7. J-Bo was looking resurgent after joining the St. Louis Blues, however, and indeed got another chance at the Olympics in 2014 for Team Canada in Sochi. And the defense was the highlight of this club, and J-Bo was a huge part of it. He was excellent all-around round-robin wins, especially against Norway and Finland. In the elimination round, he assisted on the only goal of the game from Jamie Benn to beat the U.S. in the semifinal. And at long last, after a 3-0 shutout win over the Swedes, Jay Bouwmeester is an Olympic gold medalist. And indeed, 2 years later, in 2016, he was selected to play in the World Cup of Hockey and was again playing some of his best hockey. He was tremendous, working well with everyone around him on either side of the puck and set up Crosby's opening goal in the round robin against Team Europe, and played very well in the semifinals against Russia. And made some key plays in a 2-game sweep and win over Europe, just becoming one of 2 players to date to win 2 World Cup of Hockey titles as he and Joe Thornton were on the 2004 club. He was a +6, tied for 2nd best on the team. And he finally won his first Stanley Cup in 2019, and this is important as he was a member of the St. Louis Blues, but this made him a member of the elite Triple Gold Club. Despite the criticisms, he always sprung to mind when putting together a Canadian team. And he had heart, and a whole lot of it. So much so he played until it nearly gave out, as a cardiac arrest incident ended his career prematurely in 2020. Thankfully, he survived and is living comfortable in retirement with his family. Count it up. 8 tournaments, 5 titles, plus a silver to go with it. At number 8, Rob Blake. The product of Simcoe, Ontario, Rob Blake was truly a one-of-a-kind talent. Size, toughness, punishing body checker, and a pretty swift passer and devastating shooter. He was ready for any situation. After a very good rookie year with the Kings in 1991, who won their division title and made it to the second round, injuries forced Team Canada in the 1991 Worlds to call up Blake to play. He only played in 2 games, but played very well. He had 2 assists, and he got himself a silver medal. It was rumored, actually, Blake was considered for the Canada Cup in 1991 as coach Mike Keenan seemed to be a fan of his style, but it didn't come to fruition. He got his next shot at the historic 1994 World Championships. He unleashed some heavy artillery out there, being a thorn in the side of such great legendary talents as Matt Sundin, Yari Curry, and Russia's Valery Kamensky, and was key in Canada's first gold medal win at the World since 1961. 33 years. Well, Blake opted not to play at the 1996 Worlds, but was selected to play at the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, but was limited to 4 games, and he did play well for the most part. But Canada, of course, lost the U.S. in the best-of-3 final in all 3 games. In 1997, he returned to the Worlds, and oh my goodness, he was a beast unleashed. Not afraid to throw those hits and throw his weight around, which caused many opposing coaches to cry foul. Blake did serve his fair share of time in the sin bin, but was crazy good when he was on the ice. He was a difference maker in key games, including in the gold medal win against Sweden. Blake's second world title. He also had 2 goals, 2 assists, and was a +5 on top of that. Named the tournament All-Star team and was also named Best Defenseman of the tournament. This performance, plus his international experience accumulating throughout the course of his career, won him selection at the 1998 Nagano Olympics, the first to feature active NHL players. Blake was superb in the tournament and was a +8, which was tied for best in the team. He scored the game-winning goal against Sweden in the round robin in the 3-2 win and assisted on another goal. Top forwards like Forsberg and Holm barely stood a chance against him. He did all he could, but Canada suffered that heartbreaking semifinal loss to the Czechs and lost the bronze medal game to the Finns. Either way, Blake was actually praised for his play in this tournament. A few months later, the Kings suffered a first-round exit, so Blake actually joined Team Canada for 5 games at the Worlds. He played well, but Canada did not. They finished 5th after being decimated by Sweden. Well, he returned a year later in 1999, and he was a force out there, showing the same brute power he showed back in 1997 and at the Olympics in 98, but Canada lost the semifinals, then lost again to Sweden for the bronze. This would be Blake's last appearance at the Worlds, as he opted to reject the invitation the following year. But in 2002, he was named to the Olympic team in Salt Lake City. Well, he was an easy choice. Executive Director Wayne Gretzky was Blake's teammate for 5 years in Los Angeles, so he knew firsthand what he could do. And what a great choice it was. Despite Canada's rough opening loss against Sweden, he did have a goal in the game. He's one of the better players for a sad-looking Team Canada that night. He was forceful, however, in the tight win over Germany, made some good plays in the 3-3 tie with the Czechs. He was excellent containing the Finns in the quarterfinals, assisted on Yzerman's goal against Belarus, and he was working as hard as ever in the gold medal win over the Americans, assisting on Joe Sakic's power play marker that made it 3-2 en route to the 5-2 win. Canada's history-making gold medal win, their first since 1952, 50 years, and Blake was a major factor in this all the way through. It also made him a member of the Triple Gold Club, as he won a Stanley Cup a year prior with the Colorado Avalanche. Blake would be selected for the ill-fated 2006 Olympic squad, a team that didn't really emphasize enough on youth or speed. Blake was still very good at this point in his career, and he did play decently in the tournament, but nowhere near the level of his prior performances. Regardless, Rob Blake played in 58 international games, 9 tournaments, winning 3 championships and garnering a silver. He was a force at crucial games and big moments. At number 7, Bobby Orr. Yes, I know this is going to cause a stir, as Orr only played in 1 tournament, but he set a whole new standard for play in this tournament. That was the 1976 Canada Cup. But this story goes beyond that, far beyond what he did on the ice even. Orr, as many of you know, is considered to be one of the greatest hockey players ever to lace him up, usually top 5 in any historian's list. He changed and revolutionized the defensive position, those rink-wide rushes, the way he could dominate offensively and get back to play defense just as fast and make some great plays breaking up offensive rushes. An amazing playmaker who made those around him better. He could control the pace of a game. He was incredible at passes and setups, scored some beautiful goals as well. He could get gritty sometimes and tough when he had to, and wasn't afraid to block shots. However, after winning 8 straight Norris trophies as the NHL's top defenseman, not to mention 3 Hart trophies as MVP, and 2 scoring titles, by 1975 his many injury issues, mostly regarding his knee, reared their ugly head. In the 1975-76 season, he played just 10 games. Many wondered if he'd even be ready for the Canada Cup. Some even dared to say he was a liability and should be scratched on the lineup completely. Or had already lost one chance to play for his country as an injury kept him out of the 1972 Summit Series. Or was determined he was going to play. His work in the orientation camps showed heart and determination. There was nothing that was going to stop him. In Canada's 11-2 thrashing over Finland to open the tournament, Orr had 3 assists. One to Bobby Hull, one to former teammate Phil Esposito, and another to Reggie Leach. He was everywhere he needed to be. It didn't matter if it was a weaker team. He sure as hell wasn't playing like he was playing against a weaker team. And Rick Martin may have been the player of the game due to his hat trick in 5.9, but Bobby's praises were sung heavily. He had 2 more assists, making beautiful plays, setting up Espo and Petey Mahovlich, and was shutting down American onslaughts in the next game. He was showing no signs of being hurt, despite the fact that many times between shifts, he'd actually be on the bench, standing up, afraid to sit down because he wasn't even sure if he'd be able to get up again. Orr was named Player of the Game in the 4-2 win. Orr played great again in a 4-0 win over Sweden, also garnering an assist on a Bob Gainey goal that sealed the deal. Next was a tough 1-0 loss to the Czechs, but Orr still played very well and played even better in a 3-1 win over the Soviets. He was making the key plays that gave Canada momentum in the game, ignoring the pain, breaking up any momentum the Soviets could muster, and still playing like he did for the Boston Bruins in 1970. So much so, he was named Player of the Game. 2 times in 2 arenas he did that. The Montreal Forum and Maple Leaf Gardens. Arenas that booed him for being a Bruin for so long gave him rousing ovations. By the finals, however, it was rumored Bobby was in so much pain that he couldn't even lace up his own skates. Game 1 against the powerful Czechs, Bobby Orr was on another planet of excellence. A 6-0 win, 2 goals and a helper, and you guessed it, Player of the Game. In Game 2, he gritted his teeth through the pain and agony, played another beauty. Canada won the first Canada Cup thanks to Darryl Sittler's overtime goal. He played all 7 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points, tied for the tournament lead. He was, of course, named to the All-Star team and was Tournament Most Valuable Player, MVP. It truly was Bobby Orr's last stand. He only played 26 NHL games over the course of the next 3 seasons after this and retired at the age of 30. Many feel he knew he didn't have much left and gave it all for his country. But some feel it was just Bobby playing like Bobby always did. Maybe it was a little bit of both. But regardless of the reason, considering the shape he was in, he should not have played this well. He delivered on one leg what many, even all-time greats, can't even do with 2 in a given tournament. Also, I don't think it gets mentioned enough. His play in this tournament, however, showed that the new style of defense that was emerging thanks to him can thrive on the international level. And Bobby Orr, because of everything I just said, warrants inclusion and warrants this ranking. At number 6, Drew Doughty. London, Ontario, Doughty was a top prospect in junior who transitioned to the NHL quite nicely. Hopefully build a better Kings team in Los Angeles. Incredible defensive awareness, tremendous shot blocking and stick checking. He's also a superb setup man, with a pretty good boom and shot. After an excellent rookie season, Doughty played for Canada at the 2009 Worlds, and oh my goodness, he was great in this tournament, defending against such stars as Jaromir Jagr and excelling at his position. However, Canada lost to the Russians in the gold medal game, but Doughty took home a silver. He had a goal, 6 assists for 7 points in the competition, and was heavily praised for his performance. It was to the shock of quite a few media pundits and experts that Doughty was picked to represent Team Canada in 2010 at the Olympics in Vancouver, feeling that being in just his second year, he wasn't ready. Well, thankfully, Steve Yzerman learned from the mistakes in 2006 that Wayne Gretzky made. Youth was important to a team like this. And Doughty, well, he played excellent throughout the tournament. He was a +6 and was never afraid to get near star forwards like Alex Ovechkin, Teemu Selanne, Marian Hossa, or Zach Parise. He was determined to win gold, and indeed, that is what happened. In the midst of his sophomore NHL season, 20-year-old Drew Doughty was an Olympic gold medalist to add to his silver World Championship. Not long after this, the Kings were Stanley Cup contenders, and soon after, Drew Doughty got himself a Stanley Cup ring. So he wasn't able to play, however, in the Worlds quite often, but he did get another shot at the Olympics at 2014 in Sochi, and at this point, his game had matured into one of the best blue liners in the game. During these 2014 games, Doughty had the heart of a lion, the spirit of a tiger, focus of an eagle, and the will of a winner. He was outstanding in the opening round-robin game against Norway, scoring a goal and assist in the 3-1 win. He then scored the opening goal in the 6-0 win in dominance over Austria, and was not letting any forward get any headway against him. But it was his play against determined Finland that was really the highlight of this tournament. Not only was he making life difficult for stars such as Solani, but he was also making things happen on the other end of the ice. He scored the opening goal of the game, but the Finns roared back, and Canada had trouble solving the opposing goaltender, NHL All-Star Tuukka Rask. But just 2:32 into overtime, Jeff Carter spotted the opposing zone with the puck and fed it to Doughty to score the overtime winner. Being the hero in that outing, Canada, wow, playing amazing. Doughty, really the king of this tournament at this point already. But Canada had to contend with a Never Say Die Latvia club in the quarterfinals, and the game tied 1-1 in the third. Doughty was playing another outstanding game, but with just under 7 minutes to go on the power play, he set out fellow blue liner Shea Weber for the eventual game winner in a 2-1 win. These two are just unbelievable in this tournament. After a goalie clinic in a tight 1-0 semifinal win of Canada over the U.S., and in a gold medal game, Doughty was in the grill, the likes of Daniel Sedin and Canada's big 3-0 gold medal win. Double gold for Drew. And if that wasn't enough, he was named the tournament all-star team. Canada's forwards, to be honest, didn't deliver on the score sheet as much as expected in this tournament, but Drew picked up the slack, showing the type of player he really is. And, indeed, he was selected to play as well in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, fresh off of winning his first and to date only Norris Trophy. Doughty was excellent throughout the tournament, and hello again, Marian Hossa. Not today, not any day. He was excellent against Europe in the round robin, especially. Canada went on to sweep Europe in 2 games in the final. He had 2 helpers and was a +5. And Doughty got his third and to date last international title. 4 tournaments, played like a champion in all of them. And even the one time he didn't win the title, he got a silver. And now Doughty, as I record this, is currently representing Team Canada at the Four Nations Face-Off. At number 5, Raymond Bourque, a.k.a. Ray Bourque. Arguably the best and most dynamic offensive defenseman of his era. An on-the-tape passer, an efficient and accurate shooter, dynamic stick handler, and a man who could break up a given rush from the opposition, he was a generational talent in every sense of the word. He spent 20 of his 21 seasons in Boston for the Bruins, and they made a lot of deep playoff runs and a couple Stanley Cup appearances during his time there, and was rarely available for the World Championships because of that. So he actually never did play in those tournaments. But he got his first chance to play for Team Canada in 1981 at the Canada Cup, just after his second NHL season. His first Canada Cup, he was really good. And his first point came in a nice goal in a 9-0 win over Finland to open the tournament. He was actually set up by Guy Lafleur and Gilbert Perreault, 2 fellow Quebecois natives, 2 men he grew up watching. Bourque played very well against Team USA in the 8-3 win, leading many key rushes into the opposing zone. Assisted on goals at Trottier and Perreault, getting 2 apples in the win. Superb game for Raymond. After the tie with the Czechs, he and Gretzky would set up Lafleur on a goal in a 4-3 win over Sweden, where Bourque himself played some of his best all-around hockey in the tournament. He then survived his biggest test, the round robin, surviving a Soviet team making some key plays in a 7-3 win. In the semifinal against the United States, he was key, not giving the Americans much opportunity to get any momentum going. Canada won 4-1. But of course, the Soviets won in that infamous 8-1 thrashing in the final, but Bourque actually received heavy praise from the media in this tournament for his play, and indeed he had a goal for us for 5 points in 7 games. To no surprise, he was selected again to play in the Canada Cup in 1984, and it was this tournament Bourque truly excelled in his leadership and growth as a player since his last tournament. He was one of the few players that had it all together in the midst of the Oilers-Islanders riff, and his hustle was incredible from the word go. He played in all 8 games, had 4 assists, and was key in breaking up opposing momentum. He worked like a stallion to actually help offensive rushes, and in the semifinal win over the Soviets, he was playing like a man possessed. And he was great again in the finals in a 2-game sweep over Sweden, giving Ray Bourque his first professional championship, and being one of the few players to never lose his focus, and again had heavy praise heaped on him. But his best, his absolute best, and the main reason he's on this list came with the 1987 Canada Cup. Ray's game had grown even more, and so did his approach on leadership. He was now the captain of the Boston Bruins, and he was coming off his first Norris Trophy win in the NHL as a top defenseman. On top of that, he was named alternate captain on this club. He was a key factor in Canada's tie with the Czechs to open the tournament again, with his lead on the rush, and he, along with Messier, assisted on a Dale Hawerchuk goal. Up against upstart Finland, Bork along with Claude Lemieux set up Messier for a goal. Ray was everywhere again against Sweden, frustrating the opposition. And along with friendly rival fellow defenseman Paul Coffey set up a Wayne Gretzky goal. Bork's constant rink awareness and always staying focused on the play made him an asset in this tournament. He had a great outing against the Americans to follow. Canada trailed 3-1 against the Soviets, and Ray was one of the best power play leaders in the game. So, from Mess and Gretz, he scores his first goal of the tournament to get Canada back in it and fight for a 3-3 tie. Canada was initially down 2-0 against the Czechs in the semifinal, but fought to tie at 2-2. Then Bork and Gretz set up Mario Lemieux for the go-ahead marker, and they never looked back in the 5-3 win. Another great game for Bork. Then the infamous finals against the Soviets. Down 3-1, it was a power play, and it was Lemieux to Gretzky to Raymond. Yes, indeed, it began a Canada comeback, but they would lose 6-5 in overtime, but Bork still superb. Bork was all over the ice in Game 2, trying to make every shift he had count. Canada would tie the series in that thrilling 6-5 double overtime win. And in Game 3, once again, he was doing everything he could to give Canada an edge, and Canada came out the winners. 6-5, Ray getting his second Canada Cup. And for his efforts and his incredible play and consistency, he was named to the Canada Cup All-Star Team. Bork turned down the offer, however, to play at the 1991 Canada Cup, despite pleas from friends Gretzky and Messier. He also turned down a chance to play at the World Cup of Hockey in 1996. Some were actually dare questioning Bork's loyalty to his country. I'll give you a clue. It was the Toronto sports media. Well, that's utterly ridiculous. He did, however, jump at the chance to represent Canada at the 1998 Olympics in Nagano. But sadly, we know how that went by now. At 37 years old, however, Bork was still a force to be reckoned with. He and Blake were no doubt Canada's two best defensemen in this tournament, as he tied Blake with a team best +8. Again, Bork was everywhere on the ice still. Even as he got older, he was still efficient. He was especially great in the round-robin win over Belarus, as well as his effort against the Americans in the round-robin stood out. He played well in the quarterfinal win over Kazakhstan, as he and Gretz set up a Shanahan goal in a 4-1 win. But sadly, he was stopped in the shootout by Hasek, which sadly that's all people remember Bork for in this tournament in the ill-fated semifinal loss to the Czechs. But again, he was one of the few Canadian players that made an effort in the bronze medal game, the loss against Finland. You can see Ray did not want to leave the Olympics empty-handed, even if he did have to settle for a bronze. But sadly, he got nothing. Well, what can you say? Ray at 21, then at 37 was still working as hard as he ever did, was still a naturally skilled blue liner. And he's here for that reason primarily. He gave everything he had, win or lose. At number 4, Paul Coffey. While he was a defenseman, he was often seen as a fourth forward on the ice. And no, that's not a backhanded compliment, not even close to being a criticism. It's what he was meant to do, and it's why he's a Hall of Famer. He was an incredible and talented playmaker, and one of the best skaters, pure skaters, to ever lace him up. He had grace, he had speed. He could set up a goal literally hundreds of different ways and could score them too. However, some feel his best defensive hockey was always on the international circuit. Coffey, of course, was part of the infamous Oilers dynasty in the 1980s. Coffey's first chance was a biggie, the before-mentioned 1984 Canada Cup. As this Canadian team was hungry after the terrible loss in 1981, some of them were there. Coffey was, again, just incredible, superb here, playing some of the finest hockey of his entire career in this very tournament. He was very assertive in the dominant 7-2 win over Germany, also catching an assist to Oiler teammate Gretzky and getting another on a Mike Gardner goal. In the next game against Team USA, Coffey got some help from fellow defenseman and Oiler teammate Chuck Huddy to set up another Oiler, Glenn Anderson, to make it 4-2. But Canada collapsed and to settle for a 4-4 tie. While Coffey did have an assist on a Mike Bossy goal against Sweden, Canada trailed 3-1 in the third period, winding down. And Coffey read that the goalie wasn't at all paying attention to him. That's a big mistake. He skates it on goal from the point, receiving a bouncy bossy pass, and smacks it in for the big goal, sending an eruption throughout the arena. But Canada would lose 4-2. Coffey, however, was praised for his performance and was named player of the game. But Canada's not looking good. They have a 1-1-1 record with only 2 games to go in the round robin, as the divide between the Oilers and Isles players was evident as they faced each other in the last 2 Stanley Cups, with each getting 1 win. But they have to get it together, and indeed, well, they did in the huge 7-2 win over the Czechs. A goal from Coffey, as well as an assist, sealed the deal. And Canada, however, would drop the final round robin game, a rough 6-3 loss to the Soviets. Coffey played decently, but now Canada has to face the Soviets again in what is a historic semifinal match. And it was truly an exciting and epic, infamous outing. Coffey is playing like a determined individual, shift after shift. After a scoreless first period, Coffey is speeding down the ice very smoothly. Looks as if he's going for the goal, but instead fools the goaltender and the defense, makes a beautiful pass from the side and near behind the net to John Tonelli, who gets the goal to give Canada a 1-0 lead after 2. But Canada found themselves down 2-1 later in the third period. Canada was pressing like crazy for the equalizer. Coffey made one of the few key plays for Canada, keeping the puck in the opposing zone to keep up Canada's momentum, and eventually Doug Wilson tied the game. Coffey was playing like the game of his life, but his biggest play came in overtime. The Saddledome let out a collective gasp of fear when the Soviets went on a 2-on-1 on the, quote, non-defensive Paul Coffey. Well, he broke up the play with a huge poke check and then carried the puck himself back into the opposing zone. They kept the puck in as the hardworking John Tonelli took it on everyone that was going after him for puck possession from the boards. He was finally able to get it back to Coffey, who launched on net. Bossy tips it in. Canada wins. Tonelli deservedly got player of the game, but it could have easily gone to Coffey. So Canada goes to the final. Coffey plays a couple of beauties there as well and sweeps Sweden in 2 straight as Coffey wins his first major international championship. And with his effort, he was named to the tournament all-star team and tied the team lead with a +8. He garnered 3 goals and 8 assists for 11 points, tied for second best in the entire tournament. He really showed the world something in this one with his dynamic play. Fresh off his 3rd Stanley Cup, however, Coffey returned to the Canada Cup in 1987, and he again looked amazing. He scored a goal in the opening 4-4 tie with the Czechs, had decent outings against the Finns and U.S., and 2 assists to Gretzky and Lemieux each, in a 5-3 win over Sweden. And after the 3-3 tie with the Soviets, he was very good in the semifinal win over the Czechs. After the Game 1 loss to the Soviets in the finals, where Coffey received a little bit of criticism, Game 2, Coffey's second goal of the tournament gave Canada a 3-1 lead, and he and Gretzky assisted on Mario Lemieux goal that made it 5-4 en route to Canada's thrilling 6-5 double overtime win. Coffey played his best game of the tournament while facing elimination. Of course, he played well in the historic Game 3 as well. The championship win make that 2 Canada Cups for Coff. By 1990, Coffey was now a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins, a rising team, but that year they missed the playoffs, and he had only missed the playoffs for the second time in 10 years. The first time was 1988, so there was no World Championship that year, but he decided to play for Canada in the Worlds for the first time in 1990. He played in all 10 games. He actually played very well. He had a goal, 6 assists for 7 points, but Canada fell apart in the medal round and finished 4th, but he would actually never play in the Worlds again. But a year later, fresh off his 4th Stanley Cup win, this one with the Penguins, he was back for the 1991 Canada Cup, and he played even better here than he did in the historic 1987 tournament. As only tournament all-star, Al MacInnis, I think, was better. He was second to Al on the team with a +8. He had a goal, 6 assists for 7 points in 9 games, as Canada would go on to sweep Team USA in the finals 2 straight. As Coffey is on the elite list with former Oiler teammates Messier and Gretzky, as well as longtime grinder and hard worker Brent Sutter, as the only 4 men in the history of the tournament to win 3 Canada Cups. In 1996, Coffey was now a member of the powerful Detroit Red Wings. He was selected to play in the 1996 World Cup of Hockey. He actually played well for the most part anyway, had 7 assists in all 8 games. He actually looked really tremendous in the round robin, but was a -4 and was criticized for his play in the best-of-3 finals, which Canada lost to the U.S. in 3 games. After this, sadly, however, his NHL career actually took a massive nosedive, and he wasn't even considered for the 1998 Olympics in Nagano. But his skills and incredible talents led him to win 3 major titles and was key in all of them, and still played well in the other 2 tournaments where he didn't win. Regardless, Coffey's impact on Team Canada was resounding. At number 3, Scott Niedermayer. Perhaps one of the smartest and cerebral blue liners to ever play the game, the Edmonton native had vision like few others, smooth skating abilities, and could adapt and find a way to triumph in any given situation at any given time. And while he may not have as many personal accolades as others on this list, his skills were key in every bit of success that he had in contributing to Team Canada. Despite declining an invite to the 96 Worlds, he did play in the 1996 World Cup of Hockey tournament, and like many others on this Canadian team, he played very well in the round robin, but fell apart in the finals loss to the U.S. He was actually an abysmal -6, but he did have a goal and 3 helpers. Being a member of the always contending New Jersey Devils, man, Scott never had much time to play in the World Championships, and he was not selected for the 1998 team in Nagano. But he did get his big chance in 2002. He was arguably the best Canadian defenseman in the tournament. He was always there in the Salt Lake City Olympics at any given situation. to benefit his team. After Canada's rough start against Sweden, Scotty was in the face of the upstart German team in Canada's 3-2 win. He actually assisted on Mario Lemieux's goal in the 3-3 tie with the Czechs, and went out of his way to make life difficult for stars like Ilyash, Milan Hajduk, and Jágr. He was also a brute out there against Solani and the Finns, and had heavy praise heaped on him in this playoff win in the quarterfinals. He scored his first goal of the tournament after that, however, in a 7-1 domination against Belarus. And in the gold medal game against Team USA, he was making key plays and able to shift things Canada's way on a dime, and indeed led them to the big gold medal win, the first in 50 years. And then 2 years later, in 2004, the Devils suffered a rare early playoff exit, so Scotty joined them for Team Canada in the 2004 Worlds. And Canada's defense was crazy good in this tournament, and Scotty, he was a big reason why. Canada went on to win the gold medal, and now he's an official member of the Triple Gold Club. This going along with his Olympic gold, and 3 Stanley Cup rings. Scotty was at his best in the wins over Swiss, Germany, and in peak form in the gold medal game itself against Sweden. He'd actually share this moment in the tournament with his younger brother, Rob. He had 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points, and was a +4 overall. So, of course, it's to the surprise of literally no one, he was selected to the 2004 World Cup of Hockey mere months later, and he was tremendous in the opener in the tight 2-1 win over Team USA, and assisted on a Martin St. Louis power play marker. He played excellently in the semifinal win over the Slovaks, and in the one-game final against Finland was outstanding as well, getting his only goal of the tournament coming at the perfect time. Now he has won all 3 major international hockey titles. He was selected to play the 2006 Olympics in Torino, but had to turn down the offer due to nagging injuries. But he had one more Olympic tournament to play in 2010, and he was Canada's team captain. And to me, this is where he contributed so much. Niedermayer's guidance and leadership played a huge part in the success of this tournament. He had assisted the opening domination of Norway, but he kept his team level-headed and played well against the determined Swiss club in the shootout win. After a rough loss against Team USA to end the round robin, he refused to let his team lose focus. He himself showed sharp, fierce ferocity in Canada's obliteration of Germany in the playoff round. He also scored a nice unassisted goal in the win. He kept up that same pace in Canada's win over Russia in the quarterfinals, and the other Blue Liners responded to his guidance in playing well in the outing. He was excellent in the semis against the Slovaks, and at 36 was playing like he was 26. And in the gold medal game and win against Team USA, he did the same. And this is actually Niedermayer's final year in professional hockey. So now 2 Olympic goals to go with his World Gold and World Cup, losing just 1 tournament. Wow. His all-around presence and leadership brought out the best in his teammates, and that's what he built his whole career on. His ability to lead any which way at all given times is why he ranks so high on this list. At number 2, Shea Weber. Slapshot Shea was one of the best of his era. A heavy-handed and tough leader, was always ready to bring his best for his country. After his second NHL season, he got his chance at the 2007 World Championships. He was a great traditional defender with offensive capabilities. He made any forward that came near him, however, on the opposition, pay a price. He walked away with his first gold medal in this tournament. Then he returned to the Worlds in 2009, and he was amazing here, playing very well, dominant wins over Slovakia and Hungary, and was a force everywhere on the ice, giving Canada an edge in key moments. He had 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points in 9 games, but Canada would suffer a tight 2-1 loss to Russia in the gold medal game, where he actually did play very well despite the loss, and had to settle for a silver. He was named to the All-Star team and named the tournament's best defenseman. Weber would then get selected to Team Canada for the 2010 Olympic Games in Vancouver. Weber was vicious against Norway, and that's actually a compliment. And also got an assist on a Mike Richards goal. And in the next game against the Swiss, he was, again, just outstanding, assisting on a Danny Heatley goal. He assisted on another Heatley goal in a 5-3 loss to the U.S., but still played a great game overall. In the playoffs against Germany, Weber was playing like it was the gold medal game. This is what made him so good at international competition. It just didn't matter who the opposition was. He was showing that same fierceness. In the quarterfinals against Russia, Ovi, Gino, Ilya, you don't stand a chance in Weber's path, boys, as he notched his first goal of the tournament in the 7-3 win. Then it was on to the semis against the Slovaks, and he again was fierce to win, also garnering an assist in the 3-2 victory, helping out Patrick Marleau. Then in the historic gold medal game against the U.S., Weber played again with that winning desire, and it helped huge. As Canada wins the gold medal, Shea Weber is an Olympic gold medalist, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, 7 games, amazing +6. It was named to the All-Star team. And then Weber got his next shot in 2014 for the Olympics, and he was named alternate captain. and he was every bit as good in that incredible defense. He scored the opening goal of the tournament in a 3-1 win over Norway. Played a tremendous game. He had a goal and a helper in a 6-1 win over Austria, and the team was rolling along. He assisted on fellow blue liner Drew Doughty's big power play marker in a thrilling 2-1 win over Finland in overtime, and was in the way of the likes of Solani the whole game. In the quarterfinals, he was containing a hungry Latvian team that managed to take Canada the distance. However, with 6:54 to play on the power play, Tays got it to Doughty He cranks it home. Canada wins 2-1. He played very well in the thrilling 1-0 win over the U.S., and in the gold medal game, he assisted on Jonathan Tays' opening goal and was excellent as Canada took home a gold medal. Another gold medal for Shea Weber. 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points in 6 games, and tied Doughty, the team leading +6. These two were paired together. They were indestructible and touted as the reason why Canada won it all. And along with goaltender Carey Price, I wholeheartedly agree. 2 years later, Weber would play in his final international tournament, the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. Now, he was pointless in the tournament, but he was still excellent in the 5 games he played and was a +3. And now he's won all 3 major triple crown international titles. And total it up, 5 tournaments, 4 titles, 1 silver. And he gave everything he had in every single competition he played. Weber is a difference maker throughout his career, but no more evident than playing for Team Canada. Now, before we reveal the number 1 pick, here are some very honorable mentions. First, Denis Potvin. If it wasn't for a fella by the name of the before-mentioned Bobby Orr, it'd be this guy's performance we'd be talking about at the first Canada Cup in 1976. Not only did he tie Orr's team scoring lead in the tournament with 1 goal and 8 assists for 9 points, but he led the team with a +10. However, Potvin made some brash comments saying Orr's tournament MVP win was a, quote, sympathy vote. Yeah, okay, Denny. But he had a lot of maturity issues early in his career. He played again in the 1981 Canada Cup and played very well in the losing cause. But being a part of the Islanders dynasty meant that he didn't really get a chance to play at all in the World Championships. However, he did for the first and only time in 1986, and he walked away with a bronze medal and played very well in the tournament. Next, Larry Robinson, a 20-year veteran that spent all but 3 years of his career playing for the Montreal Canadiens. He played well in the first Canada Cup, finishing the tournament with a +6. Much like Potvin, being a part of a team that is highly successful meant he didn't have much of a chance to play at the Worlds, but he did so for the first and only time in 1981, and he played pretty well, but Canada finished 4th. He also played well in the 81 Canada Cup, but it was his role as co-captain alongside Wayne Gretzky in 1984 why Larry Robinson truly stands out. He showed his best leadership qualities. He was key in bridging the gap and divide between the Oilers and Islanders player in the nick of time so Canada could regroup and win it all. Robinson's leadership was praised immensely, and also won Player of the Game twice in this tournament, including 1 in the finals. Al MacInnis. Before Slapshot Shea, this was the man with the fearsome shot. Despite not being, called in 1987 for the Canada Cup, he made his pro-international debut at the 1990 Worlds as the Calgary Flames suffered their first round playoff exit, the first time in 3 years, and he played very well in the tournament, 4 points in 9 games. It was a +5, but Canada finished 4th. But he's best remembered in his Team Canada contributions for how amazing and remarkable he was and whimsical in the 1991 Canada Cup. Canada would go on to win it all. He was named to the All-Star team, and by far was Canada's best defenseman on the blue line core that featured 4 Hall of Famers in the future, including himself. And he led the team with a +10. Alvin played for Canada at the 1998 Olympics in Nagano. He played pretty well for the most part, but of course Canada finished a disappointing 4th. Al was, however, even better in 2002 as a part of the gold medal winning team in Salt Lake City. Overall, his +20 in international play is exceptional. Scott Stevens, 49 games, 7 tournaments. One of the nastiest and most brutal hitters to ever play the professional game. Stevens often answered the call of his homeland and did so for the first time in his rookie year in 1983, taking home a bronze medal at the 1983 Worlds and actually played quite well in the tournament. He played for that infamous 1985 team that shocked the Soviets and garnered a silver medal. He played a couple games for the Team Canada at the 1987 Worlds, but Canada finished 4th, and he was cut for the 1987 Canada Cup roster. He then played at the 1989 Worlds and did pretty well for himself and got another silver. He made the Canada Cup team in 1991, however, and played very well, finally getting his first international championship. Mere weeks later, he signed a deal with the New Jersey Devils and wouldn't play at the Worlds due to several deep playoff runs and a few Stanley Cups. He did, however, play for Canada at the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, and he actually might have been the best defenseman that Canada had in that loss. He got his chance at the Olympics in 1988, and he was actually quite good here too. That would be his last international competition as he was cut for the 2002 Olympic Games. And our last and certainly not least honorable mention, one that came oh so close to making this list, is Duncan Keith. He made his international debut with a World Championship silver in 2008 and was an excellent +9. And he made the 2010 Olympic team, was superb, with 6 assists in 7 games, a +6 gold medal to go with it. He had an incredible 2012 World Championship tournament with 11 points and a massive +7, but Canada fell apart in the middle round and they finished 5th. But he capped off his international career in an epic fashion, another gold medal in Sochi in 2014, and tied the team lead with a +6. +28 in 30 games, nothing to sneeze at. Well, now let's see who made it to number 1. Indeed, it is Dryden, Ontario's very own Chris Pronger. Now, I know a lot of you will disagree with this, but Pronger may not have had the personal accolades like many others on our list, but when you hear the term impact player, Chris Pronger to me immediately springs to mind. And he never even played for any of my favorite teams. And his impact on any given team he played for, be it his 18 seasons in the NHL or representing his country, he truly defined that term. After the Blues suffered a first-round exit in 1997, Pronger traveled to Finland for the World Championships. He did miss the first couple games, but made his debut in a 3-3 tie with Latvia, but then his play against the U.S. was when he really appeared to be a difference maker, as Canada dominated 5-0. He was in the way of the likes of Ted Donato and Chris Drury and made some jarring hits, and they were left spinning in his wake. Then he had fun tossing around Italy in a 6-0 win. He schooled young Olli Jokinen in a tight 1-0 win over the Finns, and again making some key breakups and some good hits. But after a loss to a tough Czech team, Pronger and company rebounded in a tight win over Russia. Then came the playoff round, and mean Mr. Pronger took his aggression out on Sweden in the best-of-3 final. Canada dropped the first game, but Pronger was as nasty as can be in the next 2 games, which resulted in a gold medal. The before-mentioned Rob Blake gets most of the credit for Canada in this tournament, and deservedly so, and many media pundits and experts agreed. Now, Pronger's, however, play was a huge difference maker. He was also a +6 with the 2 assists he had, and the +6 was tied for second best on the team. Many feel it was his play in this tournament that got Pronger a spot on the 1998 Olympic team in Nagano. Pronger was like a lion unleashed from his cage in the opening round-robin game against Belarus, and played a beauty against Kazakhstan in the quarterfinals, and even made some great plays in the heartbreaking semifinal loss to the Czechs. And he gave some more effort than most did in the bronze medal game, the loss to Finland, resulting in Canada's sad 4th place finish. But Pronger himself was just getting into his best years. The Blues were making significant playoff runs, so Pronger was seldom available for any World Championship tournament. But he did return to the Olympics in 2002. And after the rough start against Sweden, Pronger was frustrating the upstart German club whenever it came to the point where it seemed to be building on momentum, and he played a fantastic game. He played very well against the Czechs at the time, was probably the best blue liner out there in that game. In the quarterfinal against the Finns, he reacquainted himself with Mr. Jokinen, and Mr. Solani didn't have much to say either, in a 2-1 Canada win. Pronger then had some fun tossing Belarus around in the semis, much like the rest of his team did. But then it was the gold medal game, and he was part of the infamous phantom assist play with Mario Lemieux, where Pronger placed the puck through Lemieux, who faked receiving the pass and let it go to Paul Kariya, who scored the goal. Pronger does not get enough credit for that play, which tied the game 1-1 and helped shift momentum in Canada's favor en route to the 5-2 gold medal win. First gold medal in 50 years. I know I've said it many times, but it still rings true. Now, Pronger was part of a defensive core on this team that saw 4 future Hall of Famers, including himself. However, he was sadly unable to play in the 2004 World Cup of Hockey, but he did return to the Olympics in 2006. And despite the ill-fated 7th-place finish for Canada, Pronger, along with the before-mentioned Jay Bouwmeester, were 2 of the best blue liners in this whole tournament. He was great in the domination of Italy, also assisting on a Shane Doan goal, but then proceeded to savagely brutalize Germany, played well against the Swiss in a shocking loss, but fell apart against the Finns. Pronger perhaps had the most memorable moment for Canada in this tournament, when he scored the game-winning goal with 36 seconds left to beat the Czechs in the round-robin. He also had an assist in that game as well, and he was playing like a beast per usual. However, Canada's 2-0 loss against Russia ended their tournament. Either way, Pronger was praised for his play here. Once again, even in the face of losing and not being on the strongest team, he still brought his best, and it still made a difference in the few times Canada won. In 2007, Pronger won his first and only Stanley Cup as a key member of the Anaheim Ducks and was now part of the elite Triple Gold Glove. Pronger at 35 years old, now we fast forward to 2010, and was a member of the Philadelphia Flyers. And hey, he was still a clear-cut selection for the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. And he was named alternate captain. Well, he with the rest of his team, well, they mauled Norway, and he also assisted on a Danny Heatley goal. Pronger was as fierce as ever playing against the Swiss, however, and many observed with age he was getting even nastier than usual, and it played to Canada's benefit like it did to the teams he played for. Pronger was one of the few bright spots, however, in the loss to the U.S., but in the playoff run against Germany, and the loss to the Americans, you can see, made him angry. And you will not like this man when he's angry, or nice for that matter. He showed no mercy, and added another apple, this time to Rick Nash. In the quarterfinals, he assisted on Getzlaf's opener against Russia in a 7-3 win. And he saw that Russian red like a bull zeroing in on his target. Ole! Ovi, Gino, Ilya, oh, goodbye. He stripped Datsuk of his magical powers, that's how good he was in this game. Then an exciting 3-2 win over the Hungary Slovaks in the semifinals. Pronger may have played one of the best games of his international career, as powerhouses Hossa and Dimitra were held off the score sheet, and he was a big reason why. And Pronger was completing checks, making the hits, making momentum-shifting plays, getting possession of the puck, and on top of that, he had 2 assists, one to Maul, and on Getzlaf's goal, that proved to be the game winner. In the gold medal game, he didn't let up either, in Canada's thrilling 3-2 OT Crosby golden goal win gave Pronger his 2nd Olympic gold. Injuries forced Pronger into retirement in 2012 before he actually wanted to leave the game. And you have to believe that even pushing 40 years old, he may have been a selection in Sochi. He wasn't an offensive marvel, but could be in a given game, that's just it. While a lot of the offensive defensemen deserve the credit they get, and they actually get most of it as you see on this list, it leaves guys like Pronger, however, who is considered an all-time great, with a lack of personal accolades. And people forget it's guys like him and his style that win you the big game. And be it as a hungry 22-year-old at the 1997 Worlds, or as a grizzled legendary vet at the 2010 Olympics, he showed that same heart every single game in between and that winning desire. Again, 13 years apart, and he's still the same. That's why he's number 1 on my list. Well, that does it for our look at the top 10 Team Canada defensemen, our choice for Team Canada defensemen of all time. Feel free to share your personal list in the comments below. And now we move on to part 3 in our next video, where we'll count down the top 5 goaltenders in Team Canada history. And until then, please like and share the video. Also, click subscribe to this channel. Until next time, I'll see ya!